We are live. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jordan Duran. I am the host of Changing the Game. Changing the Game was created to share leadership insights and inspiration from female professionals who are out there making a difference in their industry. Today, I'm joined by Ashlan Ramsey. Ashlan is currently the head of member experience at The Post. The Post is the only membership community connecting leaders by sports. Ashlan is also a former LPGA Tour pro. Welcome, Ashlan.
Thanks, Jordan. Excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. I'm so excited for you to share more about your experience. One, as a professional athlete, how badass. Two, your experience kind of transitioning out of the athletic world or out of your career into your professional career. So yeah, lots to cover today.
Yeah, I'm excited. I feel like sports and business are my forte of what I love talking about and my passion. So I'm excited to be here and talking about both of those with you.
Yes, me too. Let's have you kick it off right away. I want to know actually a little bit more about what you were like growing up and how you got into golf.
Yeah, so I actually grew up with my sister. She's 16 months older, and she started playing golf a little bit before I did. She was always at the golf course with my dad while I was on the tennis court alone. So I got a little bit jealous. And she also started winning some trophies as like an 8, 9, 10-year-old. So I decided to kind of pick up the game so I could, one, spend more time with her and my dad, and two, I wanted to get a little taste of what winning was like and what those trophies were like. So I decided to switch from tennis to golf around like 8 or 9. And then, yeah, haven't stopped playing yet. So I've been with it for a long time now, too many years to count.
That's so awesome. You started at such a young age and with your family, like you got to share in some of that success and fun.
Yeah, it's been great. And I think most siblings too are ultra competitive, and you can kind of see it go one of two directions where like you just completely clash and butt heads, and it's like always like one is better than the other, and you're kind of always like vying for the attention. But my sister and I were just so thankful to have each other to practice with, and really be able to like spend time on the golf course. That's not to say that we never kind of got into it with the competitive nature in both of us, but it was really like golf is such an isolating sport at times. So we were just really thankful to have someone out there to like practice with and play with. And especially at that time, there weren't a ton of female golfers, even though I grew up in Augusta. So you would think a big golf city that there would be a lot of female
Yeah.
players, but there weren't that many. So yeah, she and I really kind of like went up through the ranks of junior golf and collegiate golf together.
That is really cool and such a different perspective from what I had growing up. My siblings and I all played team sports. My sister and I both played college volleyball. My brother played college baseball. That is such a unique experience, not having really that sense of camaraderie in a team aspect, but amazing that you got to share that with your sister.
Yeah, it's funny because I think to a lot of athletes, like sport equals team and sport equals like camaraderie and locker room. And, golf is not like that. But I do think now being on the other side of it, where I get to talk to athletes like yourself and talk to athletes within the post community, you start to see the importance of like both team sports and individual sports are really important to the development of individuals, but you can see like that comes out in your work style too. Like it took me a while, I would say, to adapt and be a little bit more collaborative, because I'm used to like I can't rely on anyone. I have to figure everything out for myself. And you start kind of seeing that that can be a positive, and it can also be a negative in some contexts too. So you have to always have a balance to everything. But it's also, great to rely on teammates and be able to work in that context as well.
Yeah, I want to dive deeper into that actually. I know I wanted to touch on it later, but since we're getting into it now, let's do it.
I
I
jumped
want
the gun.
No, that's totally fine. I love it. It's important. Um, you talked about that mentality of like I have to figure this out on my own. Like I'm in the trenches on my own. How did you start to unlearn that as you got into your career and learn to maybe collaborate or ask for help if necessary, or just with having teammates around you? How did you unlearn that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So I mean, thankfully, I had a little bit of I guess, imposter syndrome. Like when I left golf, I moved to New York from South Carolina, which was a big shock in general.
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone in New York, and I really had no plan other than like, okay, there's an opportunity here. Let me kind of go see what happens. And with that, I was like, I have to like make something of myself. I have to figure this out. And I think especially like I left Clemson, where I played collegiate golf. I left after my freshman year. So I actually never graduated. I didn't have a degree. I was kind of starting from scratch at the age of 22 when I retired from playing full time. So I think there were a lot of, things that I was like situations I was in where I was in it for the first time. And I was like, oh my God, like I am in
Yeah.
so over my head that I have no idea what to do. And so I think being in those situations of like discomfort and like being overwhelmed made me kind of think like, okay, wait a minute. I've been in this environment for 22 years where I knew exactly what I was doing. I was the expert. I was like in control of my schedule, in control of like, my input and output in terms of training. And now I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm going to need to talk to some people who do know what they're doing and learn from people who are in the rooms around me and really be able to soak in the experience of others, because I needed to compensate for this lack of experience and lack of education in my head of, where I was falling short. I kind of recognized these areas and then started to think like, okay, if I'm able to I think actually like by circumstances, I was being surrounded by really smart people. And then I started to realize like, okay, if I'm going to be surrounded by them, I need to start asking questions. I need to start like admitting that there's things I don't know. And, I think just being aware that there were things that I wanted to accomplish that I didn't necessarily have the skill set to do, kind of allowed me to like start thinking about how do I ask for help? How do I build, a new version of what a support system looks like after sports?
Yeah. That that imposter syndrome can be a really powerful driver sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it can hold us back and make us feel insecure, but it sounds like you took it in a way where it's like, hey, maybe I have some gaps in my knowledge and this is a sign. Like I need to start asking the questions, start asking for help and leaning into some of the really smart people around me.
Yeah, and I don't know how it was for you, but I think there's in a lot of athletes we have this underdog mentality where we are constantly trying to like prove ourselves. And I mean, I don't know that it was necessarily the case for me, but you do see oftentimes where athletes like the performance equals attention or praise from other people. And so you're always seeking, like, okay, if I can just accomplish this thing, then I'll be recognized in a certain light. And so you start building that work ethic, but it really never I don't think it ever leaves you. I think you still kind of take that mentality into everything that you do. And so I think that there's a lot of power in that underdog mentality or the imposter syndrome if you're able to kind of be aware of where you are and then use that to then like recalibrate and kind of propel you towards your goals.
Yeah. That is so true. I think so many athletes take that mentality with them for the rest of their life, their journey, their career. How did you make the decision then to retire and was it a tough transition when you moved away from professional golf to your career?
Yeah, it would have been well, it was tough in the context, that I stepped away. I actually had a shoulder injury where I had nerve damage, and so it was a couple of years of, like, "Am I going to be able to get through this?" And, trying
Right.
to, like, go to all the right doctors and, get the right diagnosis, and it never really, it wasn't just, like, a straightforward path of, like, "Okay, get this surgery, go to this physical therapist, and then you'll be all set." So I started losing confidence that I was ever going to be the player that I was previously, like before the injury. And so I started kind of considering things like, is this worth it? Like, is this really the lifestyle I want to live and continue? Is this the dream that I want to continue pursuing? And I think the answer was no, but it's hard to disassociate like the things that you have, like the path that you have to be on in order to fulfill those goals. With like, I still have those goals. Like, would I like to still be on the LPGA tour and, winning tournaments every week? Yes, that would be really fulfilling and exciting. But the things that I had to do and those downtimes were too significant for me to really continue chasing those goals. So um, ultimately glad that everything happened the way that it did. I actually ended up with a great opportunity to move to New York and work for an international company. So I was traveling a lot. I was getting a lot of work experience in events and hospitality. And so I was kind of teed up, right after I stopped playing to then start working. And so very thankful for that opportunity. And then that's kind of propelled me forward in this career of memberships and communities. So I see a lot of value in the way that I left sport. And I know that it's not as easy of a transition for some other folks who maybe don't know what they're going to do after they stop playing, because I certainly never had a plan B. So I was only focused on plan A.
That is such a good point. I mean, here at Shift, I work with so many candidates that are transitioning out of their sport for the first time, and definitely having that identity crisis or shift where that's really difficult. If you could offer any advice or one little piece of advice to somebody going through a transition, whether it's by their choice or not, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I think there's no easy way. Like, it's not an easy situation by any means. I think if you are able to accept that it's not going to be easy and then keep doing it anyway, that's really important. I think you can't suppress these feelings of like you've lost your identity or you don't know what to do or you don't know where to turn. But I think the important thing is like just keep surrounding yourself with the right people, like people who have been through it, people who have helped other people through it, or people who understand what that road looks like. Because the more athletes you talk to, the more you start to understand like it's not uncommon. And there are a lot of people who go through that, transition period. And there's some people who it's like super easy and it's a breeze. Like mine, I think was relatively easy, but you certainly see where that isn't always the case. And I think just being around people who really are going to be able to support you and connect you with the right people. And as long as how to ask for help and how to ask for
Yeah.
advice and actually take that support in. Like, I think the biggest thing that you start to see when you're around a lot of athletes too is like, naturally we want to help one another, and it's actually fulfilling to most people to make that connection or to make the call for someone. You're not a burden by asking for help. You're not a burden by asking someone for a favor. You're actually, I believe, because I've seen it a number of times, you're actually doing that person, you're helping them because it fulfills them to help you. So I think just understanding that it's all one big cycle and you'll be on the other side of it able to help someone else, in a matter of time.
I love that advice. Thank you so much for that, Ashlyn. Like,
Yeah.
people do generally want to be helpful. I think that's such a good call out. And it's
Yeah.
just a matter of being unafraid to ask for it or to start building that network or that community.
Yeah. And I do think like you hear it all the time, but like athletes are often put on pedestals of like they did so well at their sport that they have to like now they know everything. Like they're the experts. And it's definitely something to watch out for when you see athletes put on that pedestal within sport, and then just knowing that now they're kind of starting from the ground up is what it feels like. But I think especially with what you guys do at Shift and what we're working on at the Post is use those same skills of your playing days. Like, things that made you a successful athlete are the exact same things that are going to make you a successful entrepreneur or a successful manager. So keep doing that. Don't feel like you have to reinvent yourself or recreate, an identity, because you can actually leverage pretty much all the skills you learned in sport and take those over into business.
Yes, like nothing's for a waste. Even after your athletic career ends, those skills stay with you long after. I 100% agree with that. Yeah, full stop there.
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit more about your transition then. It sounds like community has been really, really important in helping you through the transition. So I want you to share a little bit about your journey from golf to working with the Post.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. So the Post is founded by Christian Ponder. He was a quarterback in the NFL, first round draft pick. So he went through the same transition of leaving the NFL and then trying to move to New York and go into business and looking around, being like, okay, like I'm gonna now enter this new arena and I'm gonna be just as successful. And then when he was trying to kind of start that career path, looked around and was like, I need a team who's going to help push me just like I did, playing football. And I started working at the Post and with Christian about 2.5 years ago. And when he reached out to me about the business, it was like very much in the infancy stages. And he kind of pitched me and talked to me about it as like, this is the team you need after sport. And I was like, well, I've never been on a team. Like I was on my team in college, but I played for a year and golf is still an individual sport. So like, tell me more about what this team means to you and like what, a support system and community means. And the more I started working with Christian, and all of our team here at the Post are athletes. So worked with our team, and then our members are all former athletes who are doing really amazing things in business. I just started really understanding that everyone has a story to tell and everyone has like such amazing goals that they're working towards. And I like to be the connector and the glue among our membership and, really facilitating opportunities for them to get to know other athletes and to learn things about themselves through connections to other people. And I think understanding that that was such a huge part of my development from, leaving professional golf full time to then start working, I was like, oh, I've been doing this throughout my whole career. I just didn't have I didn't have a definition around it. I was, training. I worked at a membership club previously in the golf world, and I had a boss who was like a great salesman, great leader. Like he could talk the talk and he could back it up. And I was like, oh, like I want to be around people like this who I can like absorb these skills from. So I was building my own community and I didn't know that. And now I get to have a
Yeah.
formalized way. I get to do that at the Post.
Yeah, that is amazing. Community is showing up in so many points along your journey. And that's something I really resonate with that too. I think surrounding yourself with people, like you mentioned, everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has something to share. I think that's so cool that you were able to surround yourself and create this amazing community. So I kind of want to put you on the spot here though. I want to know, like, I want to hear, give us your pitch. Like who is the Post for and why should someone join?
Yeah, so we are for current and former athletes who are now doing great things in business. And so that looks a little bit different for everyone. Our youngest member is 24 and our oldest member is 72. And so I think what I love about the Post is it's a diverse group of people. So these are your teammates. These are your new teammates, and they are across all different industries, all different sports, and they are all across the US and some in Canada as well. But really what we do, like, yes, you'll learn. Yes, you'll compete. Yes, you will, bring on these tactical skills or learn these tactical skills that will help you in business. But everyone has a different goal of like why they join. Some people, it's because they want to meet other like working moms. Some people, they're an entrepreneur and they want to know where to access, a copyright, lawyer, or they want to know how do they pitch a venture capital firm. So there's all different reasons, but I think of the Post as like the glue among those people. So like I I always tell our team like I love working at the Post because I'm in rooms with people who I have no business being in the room with, and they argue me on that. They're like, "Yeah, you deserve to be here," but it's true. Like I would never be in a room with like the CEO of Athletic Brewing if it weren't for the Post, or I would never be in a room with like, these CMOs of large companies if it weren't for the Post. So I think exposure to a diverse group of people and really support in whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish through the power of the Post team.
That's amazing. What you just said reminded me a lot of, I think it's the quote, like, if you're not the smartest person in the room, you need to go, or if you are the smartest, yeah, all the way around. If you are it was like, I knew that wasn't right. If you are the smartest person in the room, you need to go find another room. So I think that's really cool that you were able to do that. How would you encourage someone who's maybe just entering the workforce to find a room to surround themselves with smart people or start to build a network?
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about it at the Post, but like this community exists. It already existed. We're just formalizing the way that people gather. So I think you can find that in a number of different ways. The Post obviously isn't the only way you can find it. But I do think that, you see it oftentimes with like, okay, people in finance go to all these finance happy hours, and they oftentimes are like left feeling like the experience falls short of what they're looking for. And I think we can all like, you don't have to join a new community to practice this or to implement this, but I think in whatever room you're walking into, in whatever conversation, and actually you and I like did it without even like knowing that we did it the first time that we met, is like really ask the questions that are going to help you get to know someone. Because if we're just all staying on this like surface level conversation of like, what do you do for work? Where do you live? What do you do for fun? You're never going to get to the meat of like what drives someone, what motivates them, how can you help them, what makes them successful. And so I think if you're looking for community, you may already have it. You just haven't like dug deep enough within that community to really make it fulfilling and beneficial for you. So you don't have to join a new one, but make your existing one great. And if you do want to join a new one, that's what we do at the Post. We want to like get to the root of what makes them tick and make them engaged and contributing members of a community.
I think that's the best advice I've heard about joining a community or finding a network so far on the show. So bravo, Ashlan. I think it's just so cool. Like, you hit a great point that you don't need to go join a new community or change your friend group or do something crazy. You can just dig deeper where you're at and uncover new things.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, like, we live in a world where like everything is supposed to serve us. Like everything is like tailored towards us, like the content that we see, the TED Talk that comes up next on your feed on your YouTube, like it's all catered towards you. And like the world is throwing things at you. I think we can all take a little bit of accountability and know that like whatever you're going to put into something is what you get out of it. So that goes to relationships, business ventures, like your work ethic, everything. If you want to extract value in something, you have to show up and be present and really be a contributing part of that. So, it takes two sides to everything in order for it to balance. But I do think like if you're asking more of your employees, like how are you showing up for them too? Like it goes full circle into everything that you do. So I think when I think about community, it's not just like, okay, who are you around and like who can help you? It's like, how are you contributing to that group of people as well, and really propelling everything forward.
Yeah, it's definitely a two-way street there.
Yeah, totally.
What I want to know too, what has been your proudest professional achievement since either joining the Post or in any of your professional career so far?
That's hard.
Making you think.
I know. I don't know. I feel pretty proud of like, I guess I'll say I am proud of myself that I have come so far from like how I was and how I like, it's funny. I'm like zooming out of myself right now. If my dad would hear me like talk about the way you show up for people and engage, he would just be laughing at me because I used to play in pro-ams where like I would play with these groups of clients from corporations, and he would be talking to them like 95% of the round because I was just so introverted and so focused on the goal, like the task at hand, and playing my practice round and prepping for this tournament, that I couldn't be bothered to like ask these amateurs questions about themselves or learn about their businesses. And I wish that I would have had the foresight to do that back then, which is why I think I'm so aware of it now and so passionate about it now. So I think I'm probably proud of like how far I've come with that, because I can sit here and say like, yeah, you have to pour into everything you do. And like, now I feel that way. I didn't always understand that or recognize that. So we've covered a lot of ground in, I would say, 7 years.
Oh yeah, that's on character development right there.
Yeah. It takes a lot of work. Yeah.
But no, that's amazing. Gosh, we only have 3 minutes left, and I'm really bummed about that because I have so many more questions that I want to ask you. One thing you actually said at the very beginning of our show that I'm just curious about, you said that you grew up or you lived in Augusta, and there were surprisingly not that many female golfers there.
Yeah.
So, and I actually read recently that since 2020, there's been a huge boom in female golfers, like between 2 years, 2020, 2022. It's like 800,000 plus. So I just want to know kind of what you think about the rise in popularity for women.
Yeah, it's definitely on the rise. I think it's great. I think even you factor into like little things or little trends that are shifting, like, you know, women are now excited to wear like tennis wear or athleisure, or like the golf courses are becoming more accepting of like what you can wear. Like that encourages women to play golf when I don't have to wear like a really you know, restricting like polo cotton shirt, and I can wear my athletic dress. Like, yes, I'll go play. And that, as like cliche as that sounds, it's important to like understand why women are getting encouraged to play, so we can keep doing more of that. And I love tradition, but there are some things that needed to change for women to feel more encouraged to get out on the course. And I actually I work with a number of corporations on with their females in the office of like making sure that they feel like they have a basic understanding of golf so they can get out there on the course. Because I think a big reason that women don't play and they don't get invited to go play the client outing or whatever it may be is that they're just so intimidated. And I don't think golf should be that way. So I try to work with women at corporations to really make sure they have like the fundamentals down, and then from there you just go have fun, and it's not as hard as everyone thinks.
That is such a good call out. I didn't even really consider that. Hey, it's not just the rise of the popularity of the game in general, it's also making it more accessible to women and making it more accepting, and there's just so many factors. That's a really good call out.
Yeah. And just like lowering the curtain, like it's not this game that like you should be able to ask questions. You should be able to, have like a basic understanding, and, it's not like not everyone who plays golf is Tiger Woods, and some of the men make it seem like they're shooting in the 60s out there all the time. But I'll tell you what, you can break 90 and it's a good day. So
It sounds like I need to start golfing more. I think all the signs are pointing that way. So I guess I gotta get out there.
Yeah, we'll get you out there.
Yes, Ashlan, this has been so amazing. I'm so grateful for your time today. I want to ask one more question. I know we're at time. I just want to know if you have just one piece of advice for any women out there who are considering going after their goal in their career, their aspiration, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
I would say don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Oftentimes people see skills in you that you think they may not recognize, but I think if you just kind of call attention to what you're passionate about, what you're working on, and where you want to go, then that kind of starts to open everyone's minds to you being capable to perform that task or that role or being deserving of that promotion. So I think there's a way to advocate for yourself and it doesn't come across, in a negative light. So I would definitely encourage everyone to do that. And you never know when a conversation or a question, may point you in that next direction or for that next promotion.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ashlan, for your time, for your wisdom, for sharing your experience. Can I have anyone connect with you on LinkedIn that's interested?
Yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I don't post a lot, but I look at it a lot. So I'd be happy to connect with anyone. That's how I stay up to date,
Absolutely. You got to stay up to date.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I'll let you get out of here. I'll see everyone next week for Changing the Game, and I'll answer any questions in the chat after this. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jordan.